Hello, this is Justin Williams with the Wolfpacker Podcast. I'm joined today, as always, by co-host Matt Carter, and we're going to talk about NC State's 80-62 road win over Wake Forest. It's the Wolfpack's third straight road win this season in the month of February. But before we get too far into the weeds of breaking down this game, this podcast is brought to you in part by JFQ Lending. With interest rates below 3%, there has never been a better time to lock in a low fixed interest rate on your mortgage. You'll never need to think about refinancing again. Set it and forget it. And with JFQ Lending, you are guaranteed to get the highest level of customer service. They have an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau and over 3,000 five-star reviews. Give Gage Kistner a call today at 480-401-1681 or email Gage directly at gkistner@jfqlending.com. That's GKISTN at jfqlending.com. JFQ Lending Inc., Equal Access Lender, licensed in over 40 states, www.jfqlending.com. And while you're at it, head over to thewolfpacker.com and use promo code PACK60. That's promo code PACK60 for a free 60-day trial on all of our premium content, news, and analysis over at thewolfpacker.com. Got a weekly feature going on that Matt and I just started probably about a couple months ago called the Wolfpacker Roundtable. It's been really popular recently, so that's one really good reason why you should use that promo code PACK60, take advantage of that free 60-day trial, and check out what we've been talking about there. There's some really good talking points on basketball specifically here in the past month or two. So if you want our takes on stuff like which seniors you could make a good case for coming back, check out the Roundtable. You'll get our answers. But, Matt, let's talk about NC State's success in Joel Coliseum on Saturday. It's NC State's third straight road win, and I saw an interesting stat from Craig Hamill, the SID with the basketball program at NC State after the game. It's the first time NC State has won 3 consecutive ACC road games since the last 2 road games of the 2002-2003 season and the first game of the 2003-2004 season. It's also the first time they've won 3 straight ACC road games in a single season since 2001-2002. So, you know, the season has not necessarily gone as well as Wolfpack fans had anticipated, hoped for beginning back in October. But, you know, maybe a little bit of silver lining there in the fact that NC State's finding some success here recently on the road and, you know, doing something that they haven't done in a good long while, which is taking care of business on the road against ACC teams. Granted, not the best competition over the past 3 games on the road, but, you know, you go up to Pittsburgh, you get a quality down-to-the-wire win, and you take care of business against teams that clearly NC State's better than, and Wake Forest and Boston College. So, Matt, we were talking about before the podcast started here, you know, good win for NC State. Everybody played well, but, you know, you don't want to take too much out of it considering the struggles that a team like Wake Forest is going through. I mean, they're not a very good team right now.
Yeah, let me first say I had that stat in my quick hits, and then Craig out.
Oh, well, excuse me then. I mean,
I'll point that out.
Okay, fair enough, because you had those quick hits up quick.
Yeah.
They were literally quick hits today.
Yeah, they were. But in fairness, I stole the stat from Craig Hamill because he will be happy to know that I do read the game notes. And you can add to it, I think that it was either the 4th or 5th time that Kevin Keats had a chance to go for a third straight road win. And so obviously the first time it worked. But to your point, yeah, I mean, look, Wake Forest, you know, I thought the TV announcers, I watched the game from home for confession. I thought the TV announcers, you know, when they at one point were wondering if the Florida State loss took the sail out of Wake Forest's wings a little bit. You know, they just, in the 2 games they played since, they really played a magnificent game at Florida State. I watched a good chunk of it. They were phenomenal that day. Obviously, in the 2 games since then, they gotten their doors blown out. So there may be something to that. But also wrote my quick hits is if you look at both games against Wake Forest, if you take out a little bit of a run there with like 7 minutes to go.
Yeah, when Davian
in the
Williamson did his best Steph Curry impression.
Yeah, I mean, NC State had a double-digit lead at halftime, and it did not get below double digits until 4 minutes to go. And it kind of hung around. At one point, it was 18 points. Wake kind of cut it down to 11. Then State pushed it back to 16, and that's when Wake made the run and eventually cut it to 6, and State won by 5 because I believe, if memory serves me right, they missed some free throws down the stretch as well, and obviously Devin Daniels got hurt. So this obviously is a good matchup for NC State. They took advantage of that. I like the lineup that Kevin Keats is going with, and it almost feels like a 7-man rotation working well now.
Yeah.
It'll be an interesting dynamic when Thomas Allen comes back. What does he decide to do? But this not practicing Braxton Beverly between games seems to be working really well. Coming off the bench, that seems to be working really well for Beverly. Putting Seabron in the starting lineup seems to be working really well for Seabron. Funderburk and Bates seem to kind of get it going. They've been dominating teams in the paint last few games. So, the main takeaway
ever since Daniels left, I mean, they've been dominating teams in the paint.
Yeah, I just wonder if they might finally. It was like 2 weeks left in the regular season. Had kind of found a formula that works, and that's been such a huge problem this year. Finding a formula. We'll find out here because the games the next 2 weeks, they're all pretty tough.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh at home going to be on paper the softest. You got road game with Virginia, Notre Dame, you get Virginia Tech at home. So if you get them all off, you get them all skilled and played. Yeah, we'll find out a lot more, obviously. But maybe a formula has been found with the current team that they can kind of ride and have some continuity with here over the last few weeks of the season.
Well, it's nice to see not only NC State playing some good quality basketball down the stretch of the ACC schedule, but also being rewarded for that effort. I mean, I thought, in that couple game stretch after Devin Daniels was hurt, when they went up to the Carrier Dome and lost to Syracuse by 3 and they lost to Virginia at home by 7 points, I thought they were playing good basketball. All in all, I mean, they're just coming up short a couple plays here and there, and those games could be different results. I thought one of the better halves of basketball they've played this season was that first half up in the Carrier Dome when they scored 47 points on the Syracuse zone, and then they just stopped making shots in that second half. Well, the first half in Winston-Salem this afternoon, I think it competed. I think they ended up scoring 52, 53 points. I think it was
50 or 51.
Okay. It was
most under Kevin Keats first half in his now 4 years at NC State.
In ACC play? Or just in the
first overall.
Half? Okay.
Definitely in ACC, but yeah, first half, maybe overall.
Because I saw a stat that there was their second highest scoring half overall this season. They scored, I think, 54 points in the second half against Charleston Southern, who...
Yeah, this was first half.
Right. But nonetheless, I mean, you score 50 points on any ACC team, you're doing something right. So the offense was certainly there, and it was a balanced attack too. Five different players scoring double figures, 2 more with 8 points or more. And I mean, really, the breakout performance was from Darian Seabron, and I want to get to him specifically, but just in terms of the balanced attack, I asked Coach Keats after the game just kind of how nice it felt to have that sort of balanced approach. It seems like, his recipe this year is getting, big numbers from a handful of guys, specifically, Helms, Funderburk, Manny Bates at times. Devin Daniels was that go-to reliable guy, but you lost him. And, once Daniels was hurt, there was kind of a point week and a half, 2 weeks ago where, Keats was just kind of desperate to get one of his guards in double-figure scoring. He would have taken, if you told him a couple weeks ago you could get Braxton Beverly and Cam Hayes to score 10 points a game, he would take that in a heartbeat because he just wasn't getting that type of scoring production out of his backcourt. But tonight, that was not a problem. I thought that was good ball movement. Everybody was unselfish. Everybody played to their strengths. And yeah, I mean, I like this approach going forward. What did you see specifically in terms of, I thought they fed the paint appropriately, but maybe they didn't force it as much as sometimes since Devin Daniels has been hurt. I mean, I guess my only criticism and I like the identity shift, leaning in on your front court, going to your experience, but I guess my only criticism or maybe area for improvement for this NC State team is they haven't shot enough threes at times, but that was not the problem Saturday.
Yeah, they were good looks at threes. I like Wake Forest wasn't playing great defense out there. One of the things, too, is I think you've seen NC State last couple of games, even Braxton Beverly, put the ball on the floor and try to get to the basket. Teams are clearly trying to dare NC State to penetrate. You saw Cam Hayes hit a couple of runners. You saw Beverly hit a couple of runners. I think you'll see some of that going on, not just settling for tough jump shots, working the ball around. I think the ball movement was pretty good. I'll be honest, too, I think there was room to be better against Wake Forest, too. Sometimes you get a little floppy when you're up 27 points. But there were some shots that DJ Funderburk missed around the rim that you can normally – I think he kind of had a subpar shooting game numbers-wise if you look at the stats.
Yeah, he was 4 of 11. There was a comment in the game thread on the message board, like, what's going on with DJ Funderburk? I thought he was playing well from the get-go. He just couldn't get some bunnies to go early on. I think he missed his first 5 or 6 shots.
Yeah. And then, I'm not picking on Cam Hayes because I thought he played a real good game in the game. But I think he had probably had a few turnovers he'd like to take back, even though I'm very forgiving of the freshmen when it comes to turnovers. And Shaq Moore, good chunk of the first half was fouled. I thought it was going to be one of those days with the officials early in the game that it was just going to make this a long, miserable afternoon. Fortunately, they started swallowing the whistles.
Yeah, they were real whistle happy early on in that game.
Yeah. So it could have even been better if something that to say that in a negative viewpoint, but they beat Wake Forest by 20 and probably could have been even better.
Yeah, and some of that was, putting in the 3 freshman forwards and, a couple of your walk-ons in late in the game. That is, I guess, one thing that's kind of stood out in these lopsided contests where, those freshman forwards have a bit of a ways to go in terms of their rebounding ability, in terms of their ability to score the basket. I know it's not the easiest thing in the world to come in after you've been sitting on the bench for the better part of 2 hours and then come in and go at full game speed against an opposing team's starters. But, to your point, and you're breaking up with me a little bit there earlier, we're obviously doing this remote connection here, but Cam Hayes' turnovers, I thought, maybe prevented him from being a main talking point in this game. He played really well at times. It starts with his perimeter shooting. I can't recall a game in the ACC play where he shot the ball that well from 3. He went 3 of 5 from beyond the arc, finished with 11 points. So offensively, he was sound. He had 5 assists, which pretty high number for ACC play. I think it's probably his second or third highest total in ACC play. Obviously, he came off of his career high with 9 at Pittsburgh in that win. But the 4 turnovers, a couple of them were there in the last 5 minutes of the game when it was already pretty much out of reach. But obviously, you'd like to see those turnovers decrease. But let's talk about Darion Sebron, which I'm sure will get one of our game balls, clearly. But kind of a breakout game for him.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, with his game, it just starts on the defensive end, and that seemed to be kind of the case for this NC State team all around, right? They forced 18 turnovers from Wake Forest, and they converted it to 28 points. And Darion Sebron had his fair share of those points and of those turnovers. He had a career high 3 steals, I believe, maybe even 4. 4 steals. So there you go. I mean, that's about a quarter of those Wake Forest turnovers just on Darion Sebron. And he was great in transition. He attacked the rim. He was fearless. And it's not something you could really say from every game that you've seen from Darion Sebron this year, but now the second consecutive game where he's had 30-plus minutes on the floor, and I thought he looked great.
Yeah, I've been an admitted Darion Sebron fan, so I might have a little bias here. But what I love about Sebron is 14 points. Even if he had only scored 4 points, he would have made a big impact in this game. He was all over the court, and I think it was one of those early games. It may have been the UNC game at PNC. He had like 7 rebounds and limited playing time in that game. I think he's the best athlete on the NC State roster. And his particular, what I've noticed more and more recently is his full court speed. There's been a few times he just outran because he's so much faster than everybody else on the floor. Everybody down the court.
That's a high compliment, too, considering he, is on the same roster as Shaquille Moore and Manny Bates. But I agree with you. He might be the best athlete on this team.
Yeah. And, he can impact a game in so many ways. He's a real good rebounder for his size. He got the ability to get the steals and deflections. Even had a nice block shot in this game. Yeah. The offensive game is what obviously come around for him, but I've always just felt like he's got good upside, and for him one of the keys was not turning the basketball over. He got to tighten that handle up a little bit, but he's a unique weapon. I like the fact that potentially he's a guy that can grab immediately sprint out and go down the court by himself with his speed and get something going in transition. So it was clearly his best game. He clearly comfortable with the playing time right now. Got a good couple of matchups now. Virginia, and we'll see how he handles that. That's a whole different ball game, and I believe he started against Virginia last time out. I believe because that was right after the Syracuse game where he had a nice game against Syracuse.
Yeah, he may
and
have.
They started him. Yeah, and they started him against Virginia. So kind of full circle here. We'll see how he does round 2. And can he keep this momentum up?
Well, Kevin Keats talked about it a little bit in the postgame availability. And, I think the start of this season has been kind of a frustrating process mutually for both the staff and Darion Sebron, because I think they expected a little bit more production out of him, at least early on in this season, considering he's a guy that, he's a redshirt freshman. This is his first season, but he had that full season under belt to train with the program and kind of understand the system. And, it's not exactly the same situation as Shaquille Moore and Cam Hayes, who stepped on the court of a college facility for the first time in June or July of this offseason and got thrown into the fire. I mean, Sebron has also been thrown into the fire in the sense of the regular season and the limited non-conference slate to develop in game, but he had that time last year where he was able to compete against guards like Markel Johnson, like Devin Daniels, like CJ Bryce. So it's not like, seeing that type of talent on the other end of the floor is completely new to him. But, he's really come into his own here in the last couple games. I mean, again, before the Pittsburgh game, his season high was 22 minutes against Campbell. And Matt, I guess, according to GoPack, he did not start that Virginia game, by the way.
Yeah, he did in game note. Did.
Excuse me. He did. I didn't see the asterisk there. He did start that Virginia game, and then he started the last 2 games at Pittsburgh, at Wake Forest, but he only played 17 minutes in that Virginia game. He played 30 against Pittsburgh and 33 against Wake Forest. But
you can see he kind of went 4 for 8. Had a real nice game at Syracuse. 4 for 8, 9 points before fouling out. That'd be the only negative. I think he had those fouls late in the game.
Mm-hmm.
understarted against Virginia and kind of had a reality moment where he went 1 for 6, 2 points, 3 rebounds, and a turnover, playing against the pack line defense. So
right, that's the tough matchup for Sebron. He's not a jump shooter. He's got to go get his points at the rim, and that's a tough ask against the Cavaliers.
So I think the key for him is, can he impact the game against Virginia elsewhere? Instead of getting 3 rebounds, can he get another 7, 8 rebounds? Can he get it 3 steals, 2 steals, or something like that? So where you can impact the game, which is what I like about him. He has that ability to impact games. Not like Manny Bates. Everybody saw how good Manny Bates was last year. He didn't score last year, but he still impacted the game. So, but yeah, I'll go ahead and give him my game ball, by the way. So,
okay.
We'll make that official. Darion Sebron, 14 points. I think he had 9 rebounds, just 1 rebound short of it.
Yeah.
4 steals, 3 assists, if I'm right.
Yep, 3 assists, and those were all career highs. Points, assists, steals, rebounds, field goal makes.
Minutes played.
Yeah, it was across the board. Sometimes we use career performance, I think, a little too loosely at times, but it was truly a career performance for him across the board. So, look, if NC State can get that type of production from a guy like Darion Sebron, here down the stretch, they can play some really good basketball. They're going to be a tough out because that's kind of what you missed with Devin Daniels, is a guy that did a little bit of everything. You can't expect him to pick up that scoring production, but if he can make his presence felt in those other facets of the game, then you don't, you obviously miss a guy like Devin Daniels, but you don't miss him as much if you can have somebody else pick up some of that production.
Yeah. And what I like is, too, that we're seeing the flashes, which is what you and I talked about. Get it every Cam Hayes isn't going to give you 11 points every single game from here on out, right? And Sebron's not going to give you that kind of stat line every game, and Shaquille Moore is not going to put up 13 or 19 points or something like that every game. But you want to believe that going forward, they have the capability of doing that. And that's what we've seen here the last couple of weeks, and that's been real refreshing. In what has been a tough season, that's the refreshing element of it here the last couple of weeks.
Well, it makes my game ball a little bit tougher to give out, and there's 2 candidates. I will give an honorable mention to Braxton Beverly because I'm very tempted to give my game ball to him. He played a solid 20 minutes of ball, 10 points, 3 assists, just 1 turnover, was very efficient. He did exactly what you want Braxton Beverly to come in and do. Goes 2 of 5 from 3, 40%. You'll always take that. 3 of 6 from the field. He drove in, made a floater at one point. He just played really solid. Made both of his free throws. But all that said, I'm not going to give him my game ball. I'm going to give it to Cam Hayes, even though, I was a little hard on the 4 turnovers, and honestly, it kind of felt like more. Maybe. I don't know if 4 was completely accurate or not, but nonetheless, 4 of 8 from the field, 3 of 5 from 3. He was really efficient scoring wise, and that's why I want to give him this game ball because, even though you saw him go for a career high 9 assists up at Pittsburgh, he was still just 4 of 11 from the field. I know he had double figure scoring, but it took a lot of shots to get there. He just got hot early, kind of padded his stats a little bit there, but. From a scoring perspective, look, he can facilitate the offense. He can get assists. He's a good passer. The question with him down the stretch here is, can he start limiting those turnovers, and can he start, finishing at the rim and start knocking down some of these jumpers? He's got a solid pull-up game, but can he be a spot-up shooter for the Wolfpack? And tonight, he did that. He 3 of 5 from 3. You'll take that all day. I don't think it's going to be a sustainable, consistent model that you can ask from game in, game out, but 11 points, 5 assists, grabbed even 4 rebounds, so you'll take that, and he had 3 steals. I think, because he's so often compared to Shaquille Moore, I think the defense from him is sometimes underrated, but he's a really scrappy defender too. Both of those guys, I mean, when you're able to play a backcourt with Shaquille Moore, Cam Hayes, and Darion Sebron, I mean, that's like a steal factory right there. Not steal the element. I mean, steals is in stolen passes, because those guys have active hands and they're not afraid to push it in transition, and that's exactly what Kevin Keatts wants in this system. So I like the future of this backcourt, Matt, but we gave out our game balls. NC State wins 80-62, so let's close this out. Please, as a reminder to our listeners at home, subscribe, rate, and review this podcast wherever you listen to us. We're on Apple Podcast app, Spotify, Google Play, pretty much anywhere you listen to podcasts. Plus, you can always stream us on the Wolfpacker.com, and do drop a comment. I check the Apple Podcast app comments every once in a while. We haven't gotten a comment since June, so come on, guys. I mean, give us a comment. Give us a little feedback there. Also, you can always watch us on YouTube. If you are watching us on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and please give this video a thumbs up. Follow us on social media. You can follow our main account at the Wolfpacker. You can follow me personally at Justin H. Will. And please give us a like on Facebook, NC State Wolfpack on the Wolfpacker.com. And again, use that promo code PACK60 for a free 60-day trial on all of our premium content, news, and analysis at the Wolfpacker.com. So for Matt Carter, this is Justin Williams, and this has been the Wolfpacker Podcast.